racing now. I wish I win from last. A spectacular TJ win. Giga kick down the outside, wins the Everest. Shinzo and Brian Moore had drawn clear to win the Golden Slipper.
With Tim Gilbert and Julie Snook, this is Racing Dreams.
Oh, it's great to have you company. I made the phone call to Julie this morning. Said, what jacket are you going to wear? She said blue. I said, I'll wear a blue tie. We've got a blue backdrop. We are blue this morning.
Good morning, Timmy. Good morning to you at home. It is going to be a cracking show. Stick around the next hour. Who knows what's going to happen? We're off to a flying start.
Let's take a look.
Let's take a look. A world away from racing, we hear about the incredible work of Craig Williams away from the track.
We step inside the Snowden stables as Peter and Paul, well, they're eyeing a third Everest, this time with Marzu. Look how good he looks.
And all the glitz and the glamour from racing's Night of Champions. Plenty on that bloke as well.
This racing update is brought to you by Bet365, the world's favourite online betting brand.
Imagine what you could be buying instead.
He made an extraordinary debut last week, 9.9 from all the judges. Daily Telegraph journalist Shano Cass from the newsroom. Shano, a very good morning to you. How are you?
Morning, Timmy. Morning, Julie. Well, I hope I don't suffer from the old second up syndrome this week because it's big day of racing, plenty of horses to be watching today, particularly from an Everest point of view, both at Randwick and also at Caulfield. So there's a lot happening for in the build up to the big one.
Well, before we get into that, a tough day at Wyong yesterday, a few of the jockeys going down. Can you bring us up to speed? Who's in, who's out? How's everyone faring?
Well, it was quite remarkable yesterday, Julie, because all the top jockeys went up there, or most of them anyway, for the Wyong Cup meeting, and James McDonald was riding an odds-on favourite in one of the normal races on the undercard, and as they jumped from the barriers, James just went straight over the handlebars of the odds-on favourite, and he crashed to the turf pretty heavily. But look, he escaped any injury that will keep him out today, thankfully, because he's got some pretty important rides, Nature Strip being one. But then in the Wyong Cup, we saw three horses come down, and Tim Clark, Reagan Bayliss and Brett Preble were all dislodged. Now, Reagan Bayliss won't ride, neither will Tim Clark. So Tim Clark was to be on Alligator Blood in the Mempsey. Damien Oliver will replace him, but thankfully Brett Preble is okay to ride at Randwick today. So a lot of drama, and it makes you think these jockeys with these huge races coming up at the carnivals, will they want to go to these other meetings as much? It was a Wyong Cup and that, will they want to be at the midweeks and just not save themselves for the big races, because it would be a disaster for any of them to miss out on a ride in the Everest, particularly James McDonald. Yeah, well, the $1 million Concord Stakes at Randwick today, and you mentioned James McDonald. He'll be on board Nature Strip. We're going to talk to Chris Waller in just a tick. Nature Strip ticked over to 9. He is a ball of muscle, looks fantastic, trialled so beautifully. Eduardo's 10, and they've become such huge names in the game. Well, they have, and the Concord Stakes is very interesting because it used to be just a Group 3, 4 sort of second-tier sprinters, but in the Everest era, it's turned into a dress rehearsal because if you look at the past winners, we're talking Eduardo, Nature Strip, Gytra, and Redzel won 3 in a row, and then obviously won 2 Everest. So it's somewhere in between a dress rehearsal this year and also a knockout, because it is imperative that Eduardo and Nature Strip run well. Now, I suppose running well is all going to be subjective, but it's not so much that they've got to fight their way into the Everest, but they can't fight their way out by running poorly. And it'll be interesting to see what they do. A win by either horse would pretty much assure them a slot. They'll go straight through. I guess if they run second, they'll probably also get through as well. I think they'll both be there, maybe making a mountain out of a molehill. But if they run badly, all bets are off, because there are other horses that are creeping up, and they're not guaranteed to run, those two.
Well, one that is guaranteed a run, I Wish I Win, commences his path to the Everest today via the Mempsey. A bit of a unique path.
It is. It's 1,400 first up. I mean, most of us, barstool trainers always think, well, you go 1,000, 1,200, 1,200 into the Everest, but he's 1,400 first up. But look, he's trained by Peter Moody, an absolute genius at the game. He doesn't have to leave Melbourne. I suppose that's one thing. He won't have to come all the way up to Sydney for a run and then go home again. So at least he's not far from home. Look, he'll probably nearly win the race. His sectionals are outstanding, and 1,400 won't worry him. So I'm not too concerned. It just looks odd on paper, but, it is Peter Moody. What about the Chelmsford today? Well, the Chelmsford is the Group 1 in Sydney today, and a lot of these horses were coming through the Winx Stakes, and they'll be going on to some of the bigger races. I mean, some of them could go all the way through until the Melbourne Cup. I thought the 2 runs out of the Winx Stakes last week were Duace, one of those horses that could go on to a Cups, and also Montefilia, who had her first start for Chris Waller. Now, Duace was a long way back in the race, made up a lot of ground, and the important thing is the rain this week dried up just in time for Duace because she really doesn't go on a wet track. But the track's going to be absolutely perfect at Randwick today. Montefilia doesn't really mind it, however it is, but I think it plays into Duace's hands this afternoon with the track being fantastic.
Well, we've already mentioned him this morning. One of the greatest figures in Australian sport has called time on his career. Damien Oliver announcing this week that this spring will be his last in the saddle.
Well, that's right, Jill. I think Damien Oliver is one of these jockeys that transcends the sport. I mean, most people in the general public would know who Damien Oliver is. And look, he's one of the few jockeys that's ridden the Grand Slam. That's the Melbourne Cup, the Caulfield Cup, the Cox Plate and the Golden Slipper. He's actually ridden 3 Melbourne Cup winners. And look, they don't make movies about jockeys very often, but they made one about Damien Oliver because of obviously the tragedy that his brother passed away just in the days before the Melbourne Cup. And I don't know how he did it. He went out and rode Media Puzzle. And, you know, you think Jason was riding with him because it was a tremendous story. It's probably the most famous Melbourne Cup aside from the Mackay Diva third one. So from just from a personal point of view, that Melbourne Cup, I think, was one of the best.
Yeah, what a career, what an amazing career, and who could forget the win by Media Puzzle. All right, now we're going to do this every week. People have their pencil and their piece of paper ready to write down some tips. Now, you're one of the best in the business. We're going to look for something a little rough, a little sort of all care, no responsibility. Have a throw at the each, yeah, of course. Have a throw, yeah, a bit rough, throw at the each way stumps. What do you got for us?
Well, it's one of Chris Waller's, actually. It's a horse from Ireland. It's called Mr. Waterville. He's only had the 2 wins. It's his first start in Australia, by the way. He's only had the 2 wins over in Ireland. He won at Limerick and the Curragh, both over 2 miles. So he's obviously looking for a bit of ground. But this is a mile race today at Randwick. He's had the 2 trials. Look, he's with a champion trainer. I think he's got a little bit of class, the horse. And if he doesn't win, let's hope he does, I think he'll be the black booker out of the race. But he's big odds, he's $23. I'd be keeping a good eye on the market because he is the sort of horse that could do something.
Another 9.9 performance, outstanding, Shana.
Very good.
Yeah.
Pushing 10. Shana Cass, lovely to see you. We'll see you next week.
Thanks very much, guys.
This racing update is brought to you by Bet365, the world's favourite online betting brand.
Imagine what you could be buying instead.
You can't give someone a 10 because you always need a little bit of room. You need a little bit of elastic band there.
Don't know. No one's ever given me a 10.
Oh, Julie, come on. What a day. The return of the Mighty Nature Strip at Randwick.
He's now 9 years old. Can you believe? An absolute ball of muscle. He has trialled beautifully. To talk to us more this morning about him and many others in his stable, Chris Waller, thank you so much for your time.
Morning, Julie. Morning, Tim.
How are you, Chris? How's the big fella going? He's a beautiful horse. He's done so many wonderful things, and look, he looks great. He trialled well.
Yeah, we're all eager to see how he runs because that's the only thing missing. Everything else with his training's gone to plan. There's a bit of confidence in the camp, I can tell you that. His track rider, James McDonald, who's been riding him regularly as well as just the physios, the vets. Everyone's happy. So there's plenty of positives from our camp, and we just need to see him do it come this afternoon.
He had a good spell. I mean, you always talk with your horses, Chris, about they'll tell you and they are the best indicator of where they're at. How has he come back? Is he still feeling himself? He looks sensational. He, by all reports, had a great spell and has come back himself.
Yeah, we did things a little differently. The last few years have been very busy, in particular the last 18 months. He barely had a break. He was going from race to race, carnival to carnival, and country to country. Obviously went to the Northern Hemisphere and ran at Ascot. So I think all of that just took its toll. So we gave him a proper spell for 8 weeks. A normal spell for him was about 10 to 14 days. So he's had a real break, gone back to basics, and we've steadily built him up from there. And he seems to have come up really well.
What about Montefilia?
First up run was great, Tim. The mile will suit her better today. She's got a nice draw, James McDonald's. aboard, and yeah, we're quietly confident that she'll also run well.
It's hard to go through all of your runners because you've got about 50 across the East Coast today. So if you ever see Chris walking around the track, he's got pieces of paper, and that's why he's got so many horses listed on those pieces of paper. But Lazago and Cigar Flick are lining up in the Furious Stakes today as well.
Cigar Flick looks the improving one, Julie. Lazago was good as a 2-year-old, but doesn't quite have that same zest at the moment, so we're hoping to see her improve, but I'm looking forward to seeing how Cigar Flick lines up against the better horses today.
One of the really interesting things about this time of year, Chris, of course, we saw Shinzo and a fantastic win in the Golden Slipper, is how do the 2-year-olds go when they become 3-year-olds? And you've got a couple that could really, let's just take Nature Strip out of the equation. I'm talking about the juveniles, the younger horses. A couple of real chances for, if they get it right, to be there for the Everest.
Yeah, very much so. And today they're not racing, but Shinzo and Militarised, they're the boom colts of last year, the Golden Slipper winner, and Militarised won the Size and Champagne. So they're both having a gallop between races, and they'll be racing in the next few weeks. So I doubt Militarised would quite be sharp enough for an Everest, but Shinzo certainly could be.
Well, speaking of Shinzo, named the New South Wales champion 2-year-old at the Racing Awards on Thursday night. You yourself, a 13th straight TJ Smith for Sydney Trainers Premiership. A very special award for you and, of course, very well deserved.
Thank you very much. Yeah, we've got a great team. Obviously, as you touched on, we've got a lot of runners week in, week out, and that puts us in with more chances, obviously. But I'm very proud of my team, what they do behind the scenes. They just work tirelessly. It's 365-day-a-year job, and week in, week out, whether it's the big Group 1s, the Melbourne Cups, the Everest, doesn't matter to them. They're just there working as an army and getting some great results. Oh,
you do a fantastic job. Congratulations from all of us here at Racing Dreams. Now, Shane O'Cass, who is a new addition to our show, he's a great analyst, a great observer of rough chances as well. Now, I don't want to call an Irish champion a rough chance, but what about Mr. Waterville, race 4, number 11 today?
It's a good starting point. It's as simple as that. We hope he can get through to the Melbourne Cup. As you touched on earlier, he won in Ireland over 2 miles. This is only 1 mile, so he might be looking for a second lap, Tim, but certainly one to keep an eye on. As Shane's pointed out, he's a really exciting horse going forward.
Now, it is no surprise to either of you gents that I'm a bit of a fan of the royal family. And Chris, you had the opportunity to meet King Charles III again and the Queen Consort during your recent trip to Ascot in June, gifting them the Australia Day Cup silverware. First of all, I suppose, how is the new king, and what does he make of, the new race in his honour here in Australia?
I haven't spoken to him about the race, but he's certainly a very pleasant man to deal with, and the Queen also takes particular interest in their horses, and obviously with Chalkstream racing today, there's been a couple of emails sent backwards and forwards, and they're certainly aware of what's going on down here in Australia with particular interest. So I hope Chalkstream runs well, and I could only imagine that King Charles will be a race that he's very proud of. Obviously, we had the Queen Elizabeth for many, many years, and now to add to that the King Charles, it's a very special race, and I'm sure it'll assemble a very good field, and I'm sure he'll be watching in and maybe get here one day soon.
Yeah, hopefully he'll come on Racing Dreams. Look, it is game day. It's a busy day, and we really, really appreciate. You always make.
Why are you laughing, Chris? Why are you laughing at the thought of the king on our show?
Well, he's laughing because
there was something in the background.
He thinks it's a natural that he'll want to meet Julie Snook, the Queen of Broken Hill. But look, we really appreciate you coming on the show because I know it's a busy day, and you always make yourself available. Have a good one.
Thanks, guys.
Chris will probably never come back on the show, but the king might.
Julie Snook, I understand that she's on that. Yeah.
Anyway, it's always a bit of a chess game when it comes to slot holders picking a horse in the Everest, as we've seen over the last few years.
Yeah, absolutely, Jules. Some go early, some go late, and that's exactly what happened with James Harron and Giga Kick last year.
Remember that.
What a run, what a ride. Craig Williams was brilliant, and I had a chat with him after track work at Flemington in Melbourne.
Giga kick down the outside, wins the Everest. The unbeaten 3-year-old's done it. Giga Kick beat Private Eye.
So, Craig, in many ways you've been described as scientist, mathematician. You study a lot for what you do.
Scientist. I've been called a lot of things. Scientist.
Mathematician, scientist.
Okay.
You study hard.
Well, every professional athletes have to, whatever their discipline is, and being a professional jockey, our discipline's a lot different. We are working with an average of 500 kilo animal, and it's quite an amazing. It's a little bit similar to golf, where when you compete, if you have a bad day, you can run last, rather than in a tennis match and you make it to the finals. If you don't win, you run second. So it is quite a unique discipline, and we are working with a 500 kilo animal that goes an average of 60 kilometres.
Tell us about winning on Giga Kick in the Everest.
Yeah, it gives me great pride to reflect on it, and a bit of goosebumps, because we had I got the opportunity to ride Giga Kick when Clayton Douglas, the horse's trainer, introduced me to him at Caulfield and in the ZP Stakes, and I thought he was a little bit raw, but his ability just showed you that he was going to be a really good horse once he learnt what he was doing for racing. And we actually made a comment then, said we might have to get his owner, Jonathan Munns, to buy a slot in the Everest as as an owner. And but I personally felt at the time that the Everest later that year, in a couple of months, would come up too quick for him. And there was about 6 weeks between that run and his next run, the Danehill. And Clayton Douglas had rang me and said, I need you to come down and trial him, and I know you're going to be impressed by the way he's going. This horse has improved 5 lengths. And he said he's really come on mentally. And when I came down and trialled him, I said, wow, well, he'll win the Danehill, and we might be having a conversation about running in the Everest at his next start. Sure enough, he won the Danehill. Wasn't by the margin that we anticipated, but in the way that he did it, I was really impressed with the way that he really dug deep late. Sure enough, he had that phone call. James Harron, as it works with the Everest, made a business decision with Jonathan Munns, Giga Kick's owner, and so we raced in James Harron's syndicate slot, and it was great when he was basically not even 2 years of age from his born, and his performance that day was phenomenal, and what he's developed into now is even really exciting.
Now, you had the opportunity back in 2011 to win on Dunedin, and then you got suspended and ended up winning a number of years later on Vow and Declare in the Melbourne Cup. What was that like?
As a rider, we dream of, and that is the race that we want to win, is the Melbourne Cup. And as a jockey, it does change your life. I remember when Christophe Lemaire won on Dunedin that time and spoke to me and said that it is a race that changes your life.
Master Reality just in front. Vow and Declare kicks. Vow and Declare's won it for Australia. They're on top of the world.
Your wife is Ukrainian. It's been an awfully difficult time the past couple of years, and you and her and a group of people got together to help those in the Ukraine. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Well, in 4 more days, it'll be 17 months since the Russian Federation's invaded their neighbour Ukraine. And when we saw the atrocities committed, the war crimes, and the devastation and destruction, but most importantly, the loss of civilian lives, we just felt broken. So we got together with a couple of people in the thoroughbred racing industry, and they were able to put together and finance with us to get over there in the first place and deliver these survival kits, which go to the front line. So for 250 civilians in the front line, it would be equivalent to saving that many people's lives. Our group, Sprava Gramad, they deliver stuff to the front line into the east of Ukraine as soon as it's deoccupied. So we're talking about saving people's lives 15,000 kilometres away, who are innocent people, from the brutality of the Russian Federation, and it makes me be a better person. So I'm a better father, a better husband, and I'll be a better jockey from it, because it gives me a greater perspective and realise that such a bad situation is happening over in Ukraine, and we can do something about it.
What about the growth of the Everest? It's an amazing race.
Yeah, it certainly is. Usually those type of race days, in in my 30 years riding, you've got to have history, you've got to have culture behind it. But for this race to really captivate the audience, a young group demographic audience, also not just nationally but even internationally, it's an amazing and a really well done job to be able to do that in such a short space of time. So I'm really thrilled to be part of it, and lucky enough I've got one win beside my name, and looking forward to the future of the Everest, which looks only even brighter and stronger for years to come.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you to Craig, and thank you to the team at Flemington who just fell over themselves to help us. It was brilliant.
He's doing incredible work there, and I still get goosebumps when I think of that ride in the Everest. It was amazing.
Giga kick.
Stay with us. Gary Portelli joins us live from his stables next. Plus, we catch up with two-time Everest winning trainer Peter Snowden as he eyes a third victory with that guy there, Marzu.
Welcome back to Racing Dreams. It's great to have your company this Saturday morning, and happy Father's Day for everyone tomorrow, all the fathers. Happy Father's Day. We are just a couple of weeks away, of course, from the official start of the carnival.
Spring has definitely sprung, shall we say. One man who is excited about the season ahead is trainer, have we got him there, Gary Portelli. He joins us from his stables this morning. Good morning, Gary.
Hey, Julie. Hey, Tim. How are you?
Very well.
Who have you got there with you, Gary?
Just some horse called Fireburn. She's hungry. She's hungry. She's not as nervous as I am this morning. She's eating the horses next door's breakfast at the moment just to keep her in the camera. Hey, girl.
She's in the tramway today. How is she?
Well, let's have a talk to her. How are we? We're feeling pretty good, I reckon. She's been working well. She's obviously got her hunger up. She's ready to go. Drawn a good barrier, and I think she gets a good chance to show us a little snippet of what's to come.
Give us a bit of a snapshot in your eyes as a trainer. Of course, now we've seen her through her 2-year-old, we've seen her through her 3-year-old years. How has she furnished as she's gone on and got older?
Definitely developed slightly. She's like her dad, Rebel Dane. He was a light-framed horse. At his top, he weighed 440 kilos. Most horses weigh 500 plus. So light-framed horse. She's a bit similar, but just mentally, she's come on more so. A little bit more cover over a hind quarter and through a flank area. But not a lot of difference to her, you know. She's, I just feel she's probably got a little bit more dower, and looking for a little bit further. So today might be a little bit short for us, but look for her coming home strongly.
And is that the plan for the campaign, Gary? Looking to run her over those longer trips this spring?
Yeah, definitely, Julie. She showed last campaign that the best distance last campaign was actually 2,000 metres. She didn't get hot at any stage until she got to that distance, where she won a Group 2 in Queensland over the 2,000 metres. Unlucky she didn't get to run the Oaks. A bit of an issue there in Queensland we won't go over. But she's definitely a horse that's going to get further, and we've got to get them up in distance, and it takes a few sprint races. And that's why it's sprint races of 14, 16, a couple of miles and then up to 2,000. We're hoping a Cox Plate might be the race we end up in. So
well, that's what I was just about to ask you. Imagine
Racing Dreams. We're on Racing Dreams, aren't I? Allowed to dream.
Well, Golden Slipper and Cox Plate, that'd be a reasonable resume.
Yeah, well, I don't think any horse has done it before, Tim. So we've gone for a few records so far. We just missed out on winning the Triple Crown with her at 2. Was beaten ahead in the finish to get that record. And then we thought we'd be the only horse outside of, I think, Miss Finland to win a Golden Slipper and an Oaks, and we got taken, we scratched from the Oaks, so we missed out on that record. So we're going to go for this one. Not a bad one. Golden Slipper, Cox Plate double. That'd be something. That'd be a feather in our cap, wouldn't it?
Well, I saw you at the Everest lunch yesterday. You looked very happy. No wonder you've got a big smile on your dial. You've got a big spring campaign ahead of you.
I have. I've got a great campaign coming. Everything in my life's going really well at the moment, and it's lovely waking up and knowing I've got such a good team of horses, new partner. Life's, I'm having the greatest time ever. And when you've got a good team of people that work behind you, it takes a lot of pressure off. You can go to these lunches where Julie, Snook and all these people get invited to and know that the horses are going to get looked after in the afternoon.
Yeah, I was working, if that makes you feel any better, both of you. Look,
I knew that, Tim. Yeah, I knew that.
Even last week, Gary, Kintyre at odds ran a great race. What did you make of it?
Oh, look, he was great. He levelled out the top of the straight. Looked like he just. I like to see a horse come around on their offside leg, so their leading leg around the corner, and then when they're really fit and they're ready to win, they switch on the new leg, which is the left leg. It's like working a different muscle in the gym, and he exploded to the lead, and I thought he was home, and then I saw Godolphin's horse, the big Tom. He come off the back of us. He's a monstrous horse. He's like 17, 18 hands, and he started to power home. And I knew we were vulnerable. And then I saw my other horse, NCAP, in behind them. He was making a run. So I've gone from yelling out, go Kintyre, to go boys. So I didn't care which one. Just one of them get past this Godolphin horse. And unfortunately, we ran second and third. It was a bittersweet feeling, I've got to say.
Well, let's talk about Komochi now. What a finish that was in the Silver Shadow Stakes. Lines up in the Furious Stakes today. She's such an exciting filly. What does her spring look like?
Look, we're hoping we get to Group 1 with the Flight Stakes with her. She was enormous first up. She had a lot of trouble down the back straight getting through horses, and then she flew home late. And basically the same horses we're up against today are the same horses she took the ground off. So drawn a better barrier today, and I'm hoping she gets a better position in the run, and we can see her put her head in front.
Who else in your stable over the next few months? It's an exciting time. We've got two great carnivals in Sydney and Melbourne. Yeah,
look, I think they're the main horses. We've got NCAP, we've got obviously Fireburn, Kintyre, Extreme Spirit. He's another nice horse. He'll be coming through a bit later. He's probably a Spring Champion Stakes type horse. And Old Space Boy, well, he'll do what he keeps him up the highway to Brisbane, and hopefully knocking off a few more wins with him. He's been a great horse for the stable lately as well.
Well, it's so lovely to see you. We always appreciate your time, Gary. You always make the time for us. You look great. Fireburn looks like she's ready to go, or just having a lovely Saturday afternoon out. She looks very relaxed.
She is. She's a cool horse. I guess she's a mind of her own now. That she's got a bit older now, and she knows she's something special. So we treat her that way. Yeah. She'd love to bite me these days. I'm keeping one eye on her. She just does a little love taps, you know. She grabs you on the arm and pinches you. So they do hurt. They do hurt. So hopefully she runs a big race today. She'll run a good, nice race. But I think for our stable, we're hoping Komochi, she's the one coming through. She could be a superstar, hopefully.
Well, next time you and Julie go out to lunch, can you give me a buzz? I'll pop over. I'll bring a nice bottle of red.
No worries, mate. I'll help you drink it.
Good on you, Gaz.
Thanks, Gary. Good luck today.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.
Well, we spoke of it earlier, the flying finish of Giga Kick in last year's Everest tended to overshadow some of the other superb runs in the race because it was just a phenomenal finish.
Yeah, one of those runs was from the then 4-year-old Marzu, who finished third in John Massara's Arrowfield slot. Well, he's a year older, looking stronger. I went out to see him and have a chat with trainer Peter Snowden. Take a look. So, Peter, we were here just a few months ago. Marzu, 45 kilos he's put on?
I'll be close to it, but just goes to show a bit of maturity and a good racing prep without being hurt. He had a few runs without being overtaxed, and he shows the benefit of that now. He's a fitter, stronger version of what he was last time.
Good trial last week?
Beautiful trial, excellent, just what we wanted to see. He'll have another one next Tuesday and just do a little bit more, and that should set him up nice if his first start the 16th of September in the shorts.
So if everything goes as expected, shorts, Premier, then of course John Massara has him again in the Everest.
Yeah, how lucky we are to have another slot like that. So that's the routine. That's the routine we took last year, but hopefully we ran well last year, but better doing a bit more luck, we might have made it even better.
Private Eye, Giga kick down the outside.
It was a cracking run, wasn't it?
Yeah,
to finish third in
run.
an Everest.
Yeah, drew 11, had to go a long way back. Had a lot of work to do and come with the winner, and almost as strong as he was, but done a super job to do what he did.
Well, he's the star of the stable, but he's not alone here. A couple of colts you got. I watched Don Corleone. I'm a bit of a fan of The Godfather. I love it, but he's a fantastic colt. 3-year-old now, won his trial effortlessly.
Yeah, no, he's a lovely horse. You're right, he's got that roll off the tongue name, hasn't he? But he's a horse I've always thought a fair bit of. Hasn't won a Group 1 yet, but he's run second, very close second to Blue Diamond. He ran a very good race in the Sires, so he needs to step up his prep. If he's going to make a Saturday, he needs to do something special, and let's hope that happens. Maybe the Golden Rose.
It's ironic, isn't it? He's almost won $1 million as well.
Yeah.
What about King's Gambit?
Yeah, he's the untouched talent of our stable. Lightly raced. The race he did run in, he ran really, really well. He does astronomical things on the track. So we know he's got the talent, but it's just his execution he's just got to get right. So hopefully now a bit older, a bit wiser, and we certainly haven't heard him. He's only had a handful of starts, so you'd think the best is still to come with him.
So Don Corleone to the Golden Rose. What about King's Gambit? Is it a similar trajectory?
Now he'll go possibly. It all depends what he does. His first start in a race called the Poseidon. It's down the straight, 1100 race, set weight race. He'll trial again next Tuesday, the 5th. And he runs on the 16th in Melbourne, and how he runs on that day will tell us what we do, whether we keep going towards the Coolmore or whether we bring him back here and maybe set him up for Roman Consul, maybe an Everest. Time will tell.
What about August Bloom? A lot of potential.
Yeah, and a nice, lightly raced filly. Good win first up the other day at Hawkesbury. Got some bigger things planned for her. She'll run in a fortnight over 1,400 metres and then possibly to the mile mares race here. But that'll depend on what she does at her next start.
This guy looks so relaxed, doesn't he?
Yeah.
He's got such a disposition.
He can get Mr. Hyde at times.
Can he? Okay.
He can flick a switch, but most of the time he's like this now, and more now than ever before. So as I said, he's had a good grounding last prep. He travelled around a bit and had some tough racing, and tough racing makes him either better or you find the weaknesses in him. And I thought he kept putting his hand up every run he had. Even though he never won a race, he runs in very good placings to some very good horses. And even his last start, you say, okay, so he was unlucky. He drew a wide gate to get back to second last and ran Giga kick down to 3 parts per length. So the talent's there. A bit of luck on the day, and even a wet track, that's another box he ticks. So if we get a few things in our favour, he's certainly capable of changing the result.
How good is it to have two fantastic carnivals running side by side in Sydney and Melbourne?
Yeah, it's really good. It gets you options every week. You've got a different option, so racing's are richer for it. Admittedly, sometimes it's a little bit hard to manage, but to have the races there to choose from, that's special.
What about Snowden racing for the spring? How do you go?
I hope it goes well. We've got a few irons in the fire and a few untapped horses that we took our time with as 2-year-olds last year, so we're hoping we reap the rewards this time in and they get a bit of luck on their side.
And this guy could go 2 better?
Well, it's a tough gig. It's a very, very hard race to win. I mean, it's a very good year this year already. It's shaping up. It's been probably one of the best ever. There's 2 grandstand horses, and Moody's horse and Giga Kick, they're 2 outstanding horses, so they're going to be very hard to beat. But we're not far from them. We just need luck on a day and we've got a really wet track. The 2 things will work in his favour.
Now, Jules, there's something I have not said this series, and it's been remiss of me, really.
Tell me.
And that is, of course, that racing ownership is no longer just for the aristocracy, the blue bloods, or the wealthy.
Right, who's it for?
It is for everyone. Right. The butcher, the baker, the candlestick maker.
I've never heard that before. I actually think we're going to get T-shirts made. Our next 2 guests
Like Donald Trump's mugshot.
Since they were 10 years old. They're both horse owners and have cheered each other on through their journey. Please welcome Brooke Barker and Jenny Gray. Good morning to you, ladies.
Good
Welcome
morning.
to the studio.
Thank you.
Looking spectacular. How are we?
Shame.
Very excited to be here.
Tell us about the friendship first off.
Well, we've been friends since we were 10, went to school together, so it's quite some time. And we've just, I guess, enjoyed this racing journey together, particularly over the last sort of 3 or 4 years. And just had a huge amount of fun with our families and our husbands, and yeah.
So, Jenny, tell us, how did the love of racing and horses come about? How did this all start?
Well, I think for me personally, I think myself and my husband, we sort of got caught up a few years back in the whole Winx journey and seeing her perform so well, and we were going out to Randwick a lot and having really great race days and just getting inspired by everything, and just thought it'd be great to have just a small percentage of a share of a horse, and just having that little bit of ownership to kind of add to the excitement of the journey, really. So we started with just a little 10% share of a Chris Waller horse, and then we've had a couple more since then. And we just love the whole experience, and we love getting dressed up and having a day at the races.
Brooke, I feel like I've been a part of your journey because your dad's a mate of mine, and we had Gary Portelli on the program. You managed to get Sir Jardin, and you still have a share. Tell us about the Sir Jardin story.
So we had our first horse 4 years ago now. He still actually races the Empire. So we got our first little taste of racing. And then he sort of won a few races, and we thought, let's go again. my husband and I looked at sort of see what else was available, and because we got to know Gary pretty well with our first horse, there was this really nice Sebring colt, which my husband really liked. He's sort of more into the pedigrees, and he really liked that colt's mother, and when we decided to go with a small share, and that ended up being Sir Jardin, which was pretty crazy.
Four-time group winner.
Yeah, it's just, you know, he's taken us on the ride of our lives, and all the big races, because he only raced in group races and listed races as well, and you know, winning the $1 Million Golden Gift, which was a direct entry into the Golden Slipper, and went down to Flemington, and it's yeah, what you know, dreams are made of.
Oh, racing dreams.
Racing dreams are made of. So
that's going to be the promo.
Very,
write that down.
very lucky, just you know, incredibly lucky.
Jenny, just quickly tell us from your point of view. Has it surprised you how accessible and easy and fun it is once you get involved?
Absolutely, absolutely. Look, anyone can do it. You know, you can buy a very small share in a horse, and it's just the excitement. Like when we first started with Irish Angel, we used to go out on a Wednesday. We'd go to Canterbury, Hawkesbury, we'd follow her around, and just that
horse.
little bit. She did well. We had a lot of fun with her, to be honest. We had a lot of fun. So, but we were going to Warwick Farm. We were just going, and it took a while until she got to Saturday racing. But when she did, that was just like the next level, and we really thoroughly enjoyed it. And she was, great little horse to have to start with.
This has been a real injection for your life, hasn't it, Brooke? Like a lot of fun.
It has, and it's overtaken my life. I've become quite obsessive about it, and you know, I look at sectionals, and I look at, you know, stewards reports, and I just love it. And I think when you love something so much, you just embrace it, and you know, it's a huge part of our lives now. And you know, we're so excited about the Spring Carnival, and you know, we've got a big racing day coming up in a few weeks on Epsom Day, and yeah, it's just we just love it.
And Jenny, you've got one at Hawkesbury today.
We do.
Should we have a little bit
Should we be writing details down?
Yeah, you can. Bowline. So he's in race 5 at Hawkesbury today. Chris Waller again, and he trialled really well. Like, we're actually really confident today. So we'll see how he goes. He's in a maiden race there. So yeah, quietly confident, but we'll see. Anything can happen.
It's almost like we wrote all this together, all in blue. Chris Waller, you've got Chris Waller horses. Gary Portelli.
You know, what are the chances?
Yeah, it's like we've actually done it. We usually just chuck it at the wall. Brooke and Jenny, so good to see you.
Thank you so much for having us.
Enjoy the spring.
Thank you for having us.
It's fun ahead.
We want to have you back. All right?
We'll come back. We'll come back.
Go and have an amazing day.
Have a
some
great day.
champagne for me.
Thanks
We'll
so
see
much.
you soon.
Oh,
Thank
amazing.
you.
Thank you.
Well, some of the biggest names in the industry gathered at Royal Randwick this week for racing's Night of Champions.
Yeah, among the award recipients was Shinzo, named champion 2-year-old, Giga Kick, named champion sprinter, and Opal Ridge, named New South Wales country champion horse. Chris Waller claimed his 13th straight TJ Smith Award for winning the Sydney Trainers Premiership, while James McDonald, no surprise, won his 7th George Moore Award.
But the night belonged to Zach Lloyd, who became the first apprentice to win the Bart Cummings medal. Here are some of the highlights.
It's about $67 million worth of races have been won by these horses. It's amazing. The prize money has been amazing in New South Wales, thanks to Racing New South Wales. If you haven't been to Racing's Night of Champions, you're really missing out. It's a great night, and if you're not here tonight, come next year. It's fantastic.
The Tab New South Wales Champion Horse of the Year is Animo.
This game is an aspirational business, and we've won Racehorse of the Year, which for our organisation is a wonderful achievement.
He was a very special horse, you know, to be able to, you know, be on the ground with a horse of this nature, and I can honestly say he left his mark on the racetrack, and he's left his mark with a lot of people in the industry, and I've got marks to prove it.
And it's time for the Crow. Away goes Animo now from Hinge.
Sydney's champion apprentice for the season. Congratulations, Zach Lloyd.
To be standing here tonight is not only a great honour, but truly a dream come true. To have my name placed on a list alongside with so many great apprentice jockeys before me is something I definitely don't take for granted. Obviously, to my dad first, not only are you the most incredible incredible manager and mentor any jockey would be lucky enough to have. But above all, you're the most wonderful father any son could wish for. The love, commitment, guidance you have shown both Jaden and I have made us into the sportsmen and, more importantly, the people we are today. And I know the hard work you have put into my riding from the moment we sat on a pony, watching as they bolted around the track with me, weighing just 30 kilos. But to see the pride in your face when I became the official apprentice title winner meant more to me than anything I've ever felt.
It just highlights the year we've had. We've never talked about the younger generation so much in 1 year. With Zach, with Dylan, with Tyler, with Reese, and all the other young guns coming through. We've never had a year like it, and we can't wait to see what they can produce in the next 12 months. We get to fourth, James McDonald on 61. Chris Waller's run third. Second is Gay and Adrian, which means that Zach Lloyd has won the Bart Cummings medal.
It's a great privilege and very unexpected, so thank you to everyone. And to receive the Bart Cummings medal is obviously even more significant, being apprentice to James. So it's a great honour, and thanks everyone for coming out. Thanks to obviously to Godolphins, and I couldn't have done this without them. See Vin, James and the rest. To my family again, thank you very much, and I don't know what to say. And also thanks to Mr. Waller for letting someone else win this award.
All right, a great. If you just knew what happened in the ad breaks, we could make a whole new show. A great day of group racing at Royal Randwick with 3 Group 2 races, including the Chelmsford Stakes, the Tramway and the Furious. Racing analyst, of course, he's the male model from Miranda, Brad Gray. We're just calming Julie down here. How are you, mate?
Yes, I'm good, thank you, guys. Good morning to you and all the viewers out there. I think you could make a bit of a show, couldn't you?
Good to see you got the caravan back to take the family away over the shoulder as well.
Yeah, you'd probably have to rate it M, though, and maybe have it after 10 o'clock. But anyway, there's a market for that, I'm sure.
It's a whole other show. Plenty to talk about. Let's start with the $1 Million Concord today at Randwick. Of course, Old Foes, Eduardo and Nature Strip go head-to-head. What a race this is going to be, and there is a bit of pressure on it.
Absolutely, yep. Ding, ding, ding. Round 13 for Eduardo and Nature Strip, which is pretty amazing, isn't it? So they're both pretty much old enough to vote now, but we love them both dearly. 9 and 10 years old. So it probably has come to a point in their career where they're only 1 or 2 runs away, or bad runs away from retirement. So fingers crossed they both show up today. But I tell you what, looking at the markets this morning, the fans of Nature Strip, they're up and about. They have hammered him. He's short in the market. I think he is the horse to beat. Now, you've got to take him on trust, of course. He's not getting any younger, either is Eduardo, but there's not too many genuine 1,000-metre horses in the race. So I like the way that he's trialled. I think Chris Waller would have him a little bit more forward than normal, just to make a bit of a statement to say that there's still some life left in Nature Strip just at the moment, and James McDonald has been gushing in his appraisal after a couple of trials. So you throw that all into the mix and he's hard to beat. Yeah,
I think he wins today, I do. And we had Chris Waller on the program earlier, and he spoke to the whole idea of, there was reasons and excuses with the travelling to the United Kingdom. They've given him a good long rest in the paddock. And look, I suppose it leads to the next question. It was great to see that little voting sort of analogy you made, because the referendum is on Everest Day, but that's another subject. Will Nature Strip be there?
Yeah, well, good question. Well, I guess he's got half the leg up in that Chris Waller's got a slot, doesn't he? So where else does Chris Waller go? If Shinzo comes out and runs a race in the Run to the Rose, the 3-year-old, you'd think he'd go towards the Coolmore slot. So that does leave a little scenario where does Nature Strip get the fairy tale farewell, potentially. We know Nature Strip all throughout his career. As soon as we start to write him off, he comes out and serves us a reminder exactly how good he is. So hopefully for our sake, he does something similar today.
A lot of eyes on the Godolphin filly and Secret as well. Obviously, they've got a slot in the Everest. Let's look at today's other races. The Chelmsford, who are you liking?
Yeah, Chelmsford to me, think it over. So he returned from a injury there, 65 weeks on the sidelines, and he was fantastic in the Winx Stakes. So you'd think he can only improve off that, albeit sometimes horses that return from lengthy layoffs are a little bit flat second up, but Kerry Parker seems pretty positive about how well he's come back. Montefilia is the money horse, but I'm with Think It Over. The other feature on the card, guys, was the Tramway. And Chris Waller, talking of him, he's got a pretty handy mare on his hands in Alencia. And if she comes out and wins the Tramway today, look out in terms of a race like the Epsom.
Yeah, well, tell us about your other tips today.
Best bets for me, race 4, number 6, Perfect Thought, trained by John Sargent. He's had the run under his belt. Second up out to the mile is perfect, and so is a drying track. And then one in the fillies race, so the Furious Stakes, Cigar Flick. She comes through the Rosebud, where she wasn't suited. She got right out the back. They didn't go quick out in front, and she really hit the line. So 1,200 metres, 3 weeks between runs. I think that suits her, and we're getting about $8, which I think is a really good gamble. And a couple of roughies. We'll have one early and one late. Race 2 in the Highway, Rebel Dreamer. It's the one that the market has missed. And race 10, Our Last Cash, which is pretty well named if you're looking to get out there in the last.
It's the story of my life. And just to reiterate, you have picked Nature Strip for that Concord Stakes. Should he get up in the Concord today, do you think the phone's going to be ringing hot?
Well, I think Chris Waller wouldn't be answering those calls because he'd be like, he's mine. I'm going to have him for my slot. So, yeah, maybe there might be a few putting out their feelers because we're at a point now where we're not too far away, are we, guys? And there's a lot of spots left to fill. So I know there's a few slot holders keen on a 3-year-old, but we might have to divert back to the old hardheads when you're talking about nature strips and maybe a Mars Crusader, etc.
Yeah, it's a beautiful day as well in Sydney town for the races, and I actually like Stars and Bars in the first. Have a little squiz at Stars and Bars out of Barrier 4, race 1 today. Just all care, no responsibility as always. Look, you've got modelling duties today. You've got to drive your caravan off into the sunset. We'll see you next week.
Thanks, guys.
As always, thank you to our great sponsors, Racing New South Wales, Arrowfield and Bet365. I'm not in studio next week.
New Haven Park, Godolphin, the whole gang. Yeah, Julie's going to New Zealand. I'll be working and getting through it.
It's the work.
Julie's going to New
Secret
Zealand.
squirrel business. I'll see you then.
Cargo Pinot Noir. See ya.
See ya.